My grandparents, all four grandparents, were Jewish immigrants from Russia, escaping pogroms and other horrible fates in the early 20th century, in the first decade of the 20th century. They all came to New York. They were small business people in New York. Without getting into the anecdotal stuff, I would just say I stumbled into some food-related stuff in the late 70s that had to do with the Green Revolution, and got exposed to some of the early thinking about food policy in developing countries and agricultural technology. And it kind of confused me. I couldn't quite see how that was going to be the answer. And then in the 90s, I became treasurer of the Jesse Smith Noyes Foundation, which was one of the early grant makers to sustainable agriculture in the United States. And we had the audacious idea to actually use our investment capital as a foundation to invest in businesses that were consistent with our charitable purpose. That's a whole other discussion. But so I got re-immersed in food system in the 90s as treasurer of the Jesse Smith Noyes Foundation, and all that work kind of led me to Slow Money. For Slow Money actually started in the 1970s when I read E.F. Schumacher's Small is Beautiful, which was and still is a seminal work. And then maybe the other half of the idea sprouted when I met Carlo and came to Bra, and I'm not sure what year that was, maybe 2000, and was so inspired by the positive energy of slow food, the idea that food could be the organizing tool that really begins to rebuild a new generation of economic relationships. And actually when Josh, the president of Slow Food US, was talking today about relationships, he used the word relationships a lot. If you're trying to summarize what we're doing with Slow Money, it's taking that spirit into the world of transactions. I mean, we live in an economy based on buying low, selling high, commodities, economic growth, shareholder value, all those things. That all happens at the expense of relationships. So relationships, whether it be the relationship between a consumer and a farmer, or in our case, the relationship between an investor and a farmer or a food entrepreneur. This is all about rebuilding relationships, moving away from everything being defined by transactions towards an economy that's based on healthy relationships. So I took a year off from my job running something called Investor Circle, which is a national network in the U.S. of so-called angel investors, high net worth people and family foundations that started in 1992 and has invested over $130 million in a bunch of sustainable businesses. I took a year off to collect my thoughts, and the result was the book Increase into the Nature of Slow Money. When I wrote it, I had no idea that an actual organization was going to start. But when I came back from sabbatical, I gathered a few of my friends and we took a retreat, and I said, so what do you think? And what they thought is now history, I guess you'd say, meaning it wasn't if we were going to do it, it's how we were going to do it. And it's taken actually a few years to turn those ideas into a strategy and an organization. So we're still a very small organization. We've got 1,200 members. We've got 12,000 people who have signed the Slow Money Principles. About 200 of those members are founding members, meaning they're people who've given us $1,000 to $50,000. So they're a bunch of leaders in the food industry and philanthropy and social investing. And what we're actually doing is we're building a national network of people who have money and connecting them to small food entrepreneurs around the country and getting them to start investing in them. And several $1 million has started to flow through the network, which is great. It's just a start. And then we're also working with local groups around the country to begin from the grassroots up, building critical mass in these regions to start connecting local investors to local food enterprises in those regions. We're doing more than that, but that's the nuts and that's the most on the ground part of what we're doing. Slow food isn't really, let's say, anti-Monsanto per se, even though a great many people in slow food, almost everybody is very concerned about GMOs or maybe very anti-GMO. But it's really pro-small, pro-indigenous, pro-heirloom variety, pro-taste, pro-quality, pro-local, all these different things. That's really important. To me, there's lots of people carrying placards around the planet being against something. That's important. I'm not against being against. Wait, I have to think about that. I might be against being against. I have to think about that. But I'm much more about being for the things that will actually rebuild healthy things. And that's why entrepreneurs are so important. Entrepreneurs are not activists per se. They are building new sets of commercial relationships to do some kind of new product and new service. So let's invest in the food entrepreneurs who want to build the new economy. That's really where the power is going to be. I get asked a lot, how are you ever going to change the minds of the American investor who's all about buying low and selling high and maximizing everything? And my answer is, twofold. First of all, we don't have to change anybody's mind to get going. There are already, in my experience, based on these last few years of talking to people, there are at least 1 million American investors who desperately want to find a different thing to do with some of their money. Now again, I said some of their money. Everyone isn't going to wake up and just take all their money and take it all out of the stock market and go invest it in an organic farm down the street. But there are millions, it's more than a million, millions of investors who realize that their money is zooming around the planet in things they don't understand, in some general way making them complicit in an economy that's out of control. You can think about it as 50 cents of every dollar going up a smokestack in China, or any way you want to think about it. But so we don't have to change any minds at the beginning. We have to create structures that will make it easy for people who already want to do something different to start doing it. So that's where we're starting. The second part of it is we are going to change a lot of minds, because as people hear about this, it's going to, this may sound like a brag or something audacious, but I believe it's going to inspire people, to awaken in people something that has kind of been sublimated, and that is that things that were totally disconnected, that this idea that economic growth is somehow going to solve everything, or that new technologies are going to solve everything, was kind of a seduction of the 20th century. And that the 21st century, this horrible idea that there might actually be limits is not going to be so horrible. It's going to just be a reality, and we're going to start dealing with it, and that's going to force a revolution in the way people think about what it means to be an investor in the 21st century. It's not all just going to be about grow our way out of everything and invent our way out of it. So that's kind of a two-part answer. It starts with just letting the people who already want to do something different, helping them, and then it's creating an inviting environment for other people to begin thinking differently, and I think that wave of new thinking will take off very quickly. One of my great friends, and I'm proud to say a founding member of Slow Money, is an organic farmer from Maine named Elliot Coleman. And Elliot is a crazy, beautiful pioneer, entrepreneur, iconoclast, farmer, poet, philosopher. Most importantly, he's a builder of the soil. And he talks about feeding the soil rather than feeding the plants. This is a really powerful idea. It's both a metaphor and a physical reality. And that's the same spirit. We talk a lot in Slow Money about feeding the soil of the economy, but we're actually talking about connecting investors to the soil, connecting money back to the soil. We have an economy that, maybe not surprisingly, because it's so linear and extractive, has been based on extracting soil fertility. So there's hundreds of millions or billions of tons a year of soil washing down the Mississippi River. That's not a stable economy. That's not a safe economy. Beyond the food itself is the idea that we have an economy just based on extraction in an unsustainable way. So connecting, using the soil as both a metaphor and a literal grounding is a really powerful thing. And we actually are just working on all of our new communications material, and the first sentence will likely be, it all starts with the soil. So that's well understood in food circles. It's not talked about ever in financial circles. So bringing the idea of the focus on the soil to finance is something we're very excited about. I often think about community-supported agriculture as a great, a very inspiring model of the new kinds of relationships we're trying to rebuild at the local level in our culture and in our economy. You know, a bunch of customers provide financing to a farmer at the beginning of his or her season and are willing to accept a share of whatever the farm produces. It's just a beautiful, simple, really radical, powerful idea. It's so radical and it's so simple, it's easy sometimes to overlook how powerful it is. So what would it be like if we had investors investing in local food enterprises with the same spirit as CSA members, meaning just groups of investors collaborating at the local level and wanting to reconnect with local entrepreneurs with very little intermediaries, very few doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, fiduciaries involved. Now, the reason I mention that is when I say that, some people go, how's that ever going to happen? It's like crazy. Investors don't think like that. Investors just want to give their money to a fund manager and let him or her do something with it and not worry about it anymore. What you're suggesting is going to be hard. They're going to have to spend time and meet and make decisions, and then they're going to have to relate to the thing they're investing in. It's just so complicated. And I have this strong feeling that the process of doing that is going to be so satisfying and so enlivening and maybe even ennobling, using a really crazy word that's never used in investor circles, that it's going to ignite a new set of really powerful relationships and kind of drive this activity forward. The reason I say that is I went to, here's an anecdote. I gave a lecture at an MBA class in Arkansas a while back, And the teacher who invited me runs the organic garden at the school. And she said, the kids who sign up for my course usually sign up because they think it'll be the easiest day they get. Oh, they're just going to plant a bunch of things, it'll be easy. And she said, it is the easiest day they get. But what happens is 95% of them become my lifelong friends because the experience of putting their hands in the soil changes their lives. And I think what we have to do is get investors to put their hands in the soil of the economy, and the same thing will happen. Their lives will be changed.